at a night in the life of a prostitute.
What's up, baby? The guys, they want sex tonight, full service. And what are you looking for?
I'm kind of looking for about almost everything.
I just hope that I get home safe.
And later, forced into prostitution by the father of her children.
I worked as a prostitute for 13 years. We were living in motel room to motel room. There were 5 girls and my 2 children and our pimp. The only goal that we had was to make as much money as we could so we wouldn't get our ass beat that night.
Denny's works for me because
Prostituting yourself is like smoking cigarettes. You start
to keep their daughter away from her pimp. Stay with us.
True tales from a teen mother raising her family while working as a prostitute.
My kids would be downstairs watching TV, and I would go upstairs, turn a date, and the trick would leave.
Do you feel like you need to apologize or explain yourself to someone but are not sure how? If you feel the need to make things right to people in your past, call 1-888-Dr. Keith.
I started prostituting probably at an early age, knowing...
We're talking to young women who are having a hard time escaping lives of prostitution. And what you just saw was one woman's chilling confession from her life on the streets. Throughout the show, we're going to be seeing these stories from women who've been lucky enough to escape the life of prostitution. Teresa, whom you've already met, wrote to me for help. When we read her letter, we brought her here, and we're going to try to help her today. My next guest, Candace, came from a typical all-American family. Her mom says that Candace's life took a turn for the worse when she started hanging out with criminals. Take a look. Started selling her body as a teenager to buy diapers for her baby. Stay with us.
Memories from the painful life of a former prostitute.
I worked as a prostitute for 13 years. The first time that I did it and I got bad, I threw up and I couldn't stop throwing up. I was nothing but a prostitute then.
Train for your new career.
I started a prostitute. I was 18 years old. My worst experience on the street was when I took my ex-boyfriend's life.
That was another candid confession from a woman who struggled to escape the dark world of prostitution. Well, Wendy, my next guest, was just 17 years old when her boyfriend insisted that she sell her body. He controlled her by instilling fear in her. She truly believed that he was the one and only person who would or could take care of her. Take a look.
Well, I was 15 years old when I met Gregory, and he was my boyfriend. Within a year, he was the father of my child, and by the time I was 17, he was also my pimp. I already had really low self-esteem. That's what he worked on. If I loved him, wouldn't I do this? If I loved my child, wouldn't I do this? It's not like he just walks up to you one day on the street and go, hey, you're a stupid, now go sell your ass on the street. The first time that I did it and I got bad, I threw up and I couldn't stop throwing up. I was nothing but a prostitute then. I remember every car door handle. I remember walking up to the car. And from that point, there was no more hope and there were no more dreams. We were living in a motel room to motel room. There were 5 girls and my 2 children and our pimp. We were just one big hoe for Greg. The only goal that we had was to make as much money as we could so we wouldn't get our ass beat that night. I worked as a prostitute for 13 years. Greg is serving time, and I'm scared to death for the day that he gets out. I know that I'll die by the hands of my ex. He told me in no uncertain terms that if I ever left him, he would kill me, and he will get away with it.
Please welcome Wendy to the show. This guy is in prison, but you're still terrified of him.
Oh, yes.
You think legitimately that he could kill you? That's your fear?
When he gets out, he'll be free to...
How long does he have to serve?
He is released August 3rd, 2007.
August 3rd, 2007. And just so we have a sense of why you are so afraid, what did you live through? What kind of abuse did you suffer while you were with him? First of all, he's the one who told you to go out and do this in the first place, sell your body. How much money?
What do you mean, different times? You know,
First
every
time.
night. First time I turned a trick was for $25.
You had sex for $25? Sexual intercourse?
Yes. I had a 3-month-old baby. It was our baby. She had no diapers, no formula. And he sat there and told me, I mean, if you love her, this is what you'll do.
And Wendy, he told you that and you did it partly because you said your self-esteem was already so low.
Yes.
And what had brought it to that point?
I think being sexually abused when I was 11 years old. That started.
You know what I mean? This all starts early in life often. Things erode these women's self-esteem when they're girls. And then somebody steps into the picture and takes advantage, as he did, so that at its worst, you were living with somebody turning tricks how often?
Every night at times.
Every night. And that first time, I keep going, how did you feel?
I remember when I was done, the trick dropped me off where I was supposed to meet Greg, and I violently threw up. And it felt like I threw up my soul that day.
Did you tell him, I can't do this anymore?
Many a times, I begged him to let me go. But he would use threats to keep me in line.
Threatened to hurt you? Threatened to take your life?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned a child that you had with him. And after that, did you have children?
Yes, we had 2 more children after that.
So you're actually living at that point with your pimp in a family.
Yes.
Okay, 3 children, and this man who is still insisting you sell yourself
Yes.
routinely. Is he making money at this point?
Oh,
Other
yes.
than through you?
Off of other women also. There were many other girls and women involved with the prostitution ring that he ran.
So, did your kids have a sense of what he did? Or what you were doing?
I tried my hardest to protect them as much as they could.
Is this your son?
Yeah, that's Gregory. But I remember there were times that Trix would call the house, and none of the other girls would be there, and I would have to turn the date. My kids would be downstairs watching TV, and I would go upstairs, turn a date, and the trick would leave. Yes, I did that.
You had customers come to the house, the kids are in the house?
Yes.
I mean, looking back, can you believe that you did it?
No, I look at it. My life today is about paying the consequences for the actions I did. I mean, I seriously...
Well, and just to help you out here, her life is about paying the consequences for actions she did, but it's also paying the price for things that were done to her earlier in her life than she could understand or make sense of or battle back from. That's what happens when somebody injures you that early on. Coming up, Wendy fears that her teenage son is going to follow in his father's footsteps and become a pimp. And he's here today. We'll meet him next. Stay with us. Real-life story from a prostitute who escaped her life on the streets. We've been talking to Wendy. Now please welcome her son, Gregory. Greg, did you know what the words prostitute and pimp meant when you were a kid?
No, not until I was about, I'll say, 14 years old.
Okay. So what did you see when you were growing up in your home that you knew might be, that you felt weird about?
Well, nothing really. They just kept it low-key to me.
They did?
So, yeah, I didn't really know much. They just cut on the TV.
Did you see him
me.
arrested?
Yeah, I've seen my father arrested a couple times.
How old were you at that time, buddy?
About, ever since, I'll say about 5 till about 9 years old.
And did you know why?
No.
No idea?
No.
Was he a good dad?
Yeah, he was.
He was a good dad to
I
you?
loved my father, yeah, I did. But after...
Was she a good mother?
Yeah, I love my mother.
So you're living with a woman who's selling her body. That's your mom, which is incredible. What do you think about it now?
I don't like thinking about it. But, I mean, now, you know, I'm proud of my mom. I've never told her that. But, you know, I'm really proud of my mom.
You can tell her now. That's good. Wendy, you're worried about your son. What do you worry about?
Do you hear him?
Yes.
My 20-year-old daughter speaks the same way.
He's got a street thing happening here. Is it his style that you object to, or is there other evidence that he is moving in a direction that you're concerned about?
The total denial. He saw lots of things, horrible things. He saw the punishments that me and the other girls would receive.
Such as?
Well, my father, he pretty much just beat my mother right in front of me. And, you know, I didn't know why.
So you see these things, and how do you treat girls now? Are you respectful of girls, or do you worry about that, Greg?
No, not really, because there was one time I actually did hit my ex, and, like, ever since then, you know, I just look back in the past, like, what my dad had went through, and I don't
want to go there.
No.
And you don't want him to go there.
No. I don't want him to have to pay the consequences of the actions I did.
Have you told him everything you've gone through? Does he know most of it now?
He knows most of it. I mean, there's things that I will never tell another human being, things that happened in that life. The important things.
Because that, by the way, the things that you don't want to talk about, this is my whole philosophy, though. The things that you don't think you can tell any other human being, they're his best inoculation. You know that? That's the way to develop in him an immunity to the kind of life that he has seen lived in his home. What do you want to be, Greg? She doesn't want you to be a pimp. Is that?
No, I'll never do that.
What do you want to be?
I mean, I have a lot of talents. I mean, people tell me, you know, continuously, you know, stay playing basketball, you know, like, you know,
good
stuff
athlete?
like that. Yeah, I play.
Good. And you said you're proud of your mom. What are you proud of her for?
About, you know, what she went through. And, you know, she could have came out of prison and went straight back to doing it, you know?
You worried that your father will kill her?
Not at all. Not
you
while
just
I'm
don't
living.
think that could happen?
Not while I'm living.
Not while you're...
He's gonna have to kill me, too.
Let's take a couple... Anyone have a question?
I'd just like to know, what are you doing for a living now?
Oh, I work at a company doing data entry work. It was, I know, a year ago, after I got out of prison, I went to college for 4 years, but I only got a 2-year degree.
Only...
And I work at this most incredible company doing data entry work.
Doing data, I'll tell you, well, that's great. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, here's the story that would be a beautiful part of this tale, is that if you really break the cycle, and someday when you have a daughter, you are the kindest, most loving, most careful listener with her, that would truly build a wall between the darkness in the past and the light you'd bring to her life, and your mother would be very proud of you. That's our wish for you. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Would you date a bald man? Do you find... Okay. And you've written a book about your experiences. What is it called?
Memoirs of a Sex Industry Survivor.
You've worked with the other guests that I've had on my show.
Yes,
is that right?
I've worked with Wendy for over a year, and she did fabulous. She did great today.
Thank you.
And our organization is Sex Industry Survivors Anonymous, and I have a toll-free number, and I get calls all over the country, and I was able to get calls from our other guests from Wisconsin and help them out, too.
Okay.
And
well, tell me, it's hard to imagine looking at you now, but it would be hard to imagine looking at any of our guests, frankly. You yourself were a prostitute.
Yes, yes, I was. It was many years ago, and you have touched on it during the show about how there's this split, how we almost seem like one person on the outside
Absolutely.
and another on the inside. And I think that's part of the game or the life.
Do you have some advice for Teresa?
Well, I would like to help you. You know, I'm not affiliated with Mary Magdalene, but I could help you. We have our program, Sex Industry Survivors, and I help young ladies like you all over the country. And I can be there for you, and I can walk you through this. Because as you've touched on in the show, there's a lot of issues one of the things that's been great about this show is that we're showing that a lot of these girls are not in it by choice. A lot of times people say, oh, they want to be there, they love it.
It's the money.
But pimps are controlling it often, and it's a dangerous life.